Here's a video that wasn't originally planned. I was a little unsatisfied with my original Yu-Gi-Oh video. It was supposed to be a video focused on my past with the game, but I barely talked about it. I spent half the video discussing the history of the game and how you can play the game at home, despite me saying the video wouldn't be about that. So I'm doing a part 2. This time, I'm solely focusing on specific stories that I have to share, ranging from when I was a little kid up until now. Sorry if you were disappointed by the original video, but hopefully this makes up for it. Kick back, relax, and prepare to hear a young adult ramble about playing a children's card game. This is the unofficial part 2 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Retrospective. I mentioned in the video that I was introduced to Yu-Gi-Oh! By my older brothers, and that I began playing with them using some of the hand-me-down cards they gave me. Of course, there is a lot more to say about the sibling Yu-Gi-Oh! Circle we had. My brother let me pick through a shoebox filled with old, raggedy, beat-up cards, all of which were older than me. As a kid, I didn't know how to build a deck, and I barely knew how to even play the game in the first place. So I had a huge 60-card deck filled with stuff I recognized from the show and stuff with really simple effects. If I picked up a card, regardless of how good it was, if I couldn't read it, I didn't take it. Did that bite me in the ass? Probably. My brothers had the better picking since they both got, at the time, brand new structure decks. Although one thing you probably expected is rule disputes. We didn't play the game correctly. We had the basics down, but we always debated on card terminology and what phases actually meant. The more technical stuff that young kids don't pay mind to. One of my brothers didn't understand the difference between a card being destroyed and a card being sent to the graveyard, so he would constantly misuse the effects of Fire King High Avatar Garanix. I remember also discarding cards without an effect, and then using something like Monster Reborn on that card that we just discarded. We would also do free-for-all duels, and those of you who know, that type of dueling is begging for your group to start bickering. We didn't have sleeves, mats, or deck boxes either. Nope. We were rubber bands and plastic baggy kids. Another thing I remember is card stealing. It got so bad, one of my brothers wrote his first initial on the back of his cards. Yes, legit marked his cards to stop us from taking them. We didn't have just the cards growing up. Like any kid, we had to get everything Yu-Gi-Oh! Related we could find. The big thing we had were the Battle City dual discs made by Mattel. These things were, and still are, the coolest damn things ever. I don't care if they can't fit sleeve cards, and could damage them. It was just so cool having the actual dual disc from the anime in real life. Of course, we dueled with these. They even spun around like the anime to go from standby mode to duel mode. Unfortunately, I don't have these anymore. My mother sold these at a yard sale for nothing at some point. Looking at these eBay prices... Thanks, Mom. Anyway, I'll talk more about dual discs another day. One weird as hell thing we had was this Millennium Puzzle toy that folded open to reveal that it's actually a game console. Yeah, no joke. Most of you might not know this thing even exists, and I think it had multiple games on it, but the only game that I remember is Tetris. I remember playing with this thing a lot, but more because it was a Millennium Puzzle. Most of the time I was just wearing it rather than playing it. Hopefully I can track one of these down for a good price someday. Almost forgot about this, but in 2006, McDonald's released Happy Meal toys based off of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Now at this point, I only watched the original Duel Monsters anime, so I knew nothing about GX. I love that show nowadays, but back then, I just wanted Yu-Gi-Oh! Toys. I had nearly the full set of the toys, but I don't recall the cards that came with them. I had the Jaden and Zane card launchers, which you put on your wrist, load up a card, and shoot it out. I had the Wing Karibo toy, but I don't remember at all what this thing did. Lastly, I had the Magic Card Box. It was essentially a plastic drawer that had 2 slots. One you put your cards in, and the other you leave empty, so when you close it and open it, your cards magically disappear. Now, I don't want to go too deep into this because I wanted to do a video just on it, but we also had the coveted Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Dice Monsters. This was a spin-off miniatures game based on the game of the same name from the TV show. I'll save the details for later, but just know we did have this growing up, and we thought it was cool to have figures of iconic Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. But we more played with DDM rather than playing the game itself. Unfortunately, this was also lost to the dreaded yard sale, but I do have the game again now. I'm gonna save my thoughts on the anime for another video as well, but we did have lots of VHS tapes and DVDs of the show that we watched religiously for a time. We even had a tape of the Pyramid of Light, the first big Yu-Gi-Oh movie. Is this movie dog water? Yes. Do I love it? Hell yeah, I do. I still love this mess of a movie. The dub is superb, it had great visuals, and the soundtrack. I had a CD of this movie's music growing up that I listened to all the time on my mom's portable CD player. I still listen to songs from it to this day. You've actually heard a lot of the tracks from it already in the background of my videos. One Card Short, You're Not Me, The Great Pretender, How Much Longer. Each of these are bangers. As the years went on, my brothers would grow up and mostly lose interest in the game. I don't even talk to one of them anymore, but the other I can sometimes get to play quick games with, but it's pretty rare. Although that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! With my brothers. I haven't talked about who I played with way more just yet. As I said in the previous video, I introduced the card game to my nerdy clique in elementary school. It was in 5th grade when I started to bring my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards with me to school. I would cut my deck in half and my buddies would play using one half and I would use the other. We did this until they had their own cards. We would gather at the picnic tables during recess for some dueling madness. Of course, rule debates and misplays happened here too. Kids playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Are bound to cheat, and I was no exception. At one point, we even started using fake cards. We knew that they were fake, but we liked them a lot. We had a rule that you had to tribute 3 monsters to use these overpowered, mistranslated abominations. I remember having an Exodia knockoff called Dark Enchanter. One time I even made a paper Millennium ring for a tournament that never happened. We were going to do it at a field trip, but of course we were too distracted by the trip itself. During this time I upgraded to a sort of deck box. I used a Zelda DS case as my deck box and it worked pretty well. I also had a small deck tin, I think, but I didn't use it for long because the damn thing wouldn't stay shut. Once we entered middle school though, things began to change. We no longer had a recess or much free time to duel. We did try, but it was always rushed, and our middle school was hell. Worst 3 years of my life. I hated all my teachers, and the rest of the staff wasn't much better. The rules were insanely strict, too. This is also when I started to really sink as a person. I don't want to get too melodramatic, but just know Yu-Gi-Oh! Wasn't exactly my burning passion at the time, nor was anything really. In 8th grade, the final year of middle school, I luckily reconnected with some old friends and made some new ones. One of them actually has a channel of their own now that you should check out. Link is in the description. I digress. These friends not only helped my mental state, but we also got to play Yu-Gi-Oh! More. We played online through Dueling Network and of course played in person too. At this time, we still didn't really have archetypes yet, except one friend, the one that I mentioned before, he used Elemental Heroes. It wasn't until high school that we started to get themed decks. I had a degenerate Exodia deck using cards like Sangan, Witch, and Last Will to search out the pieces. My friends had decks like 6 Samurais, Blue Eyes, Crystal Beasts, Zombies, and Monarchs. I eventually did fizzle out of Yu-Gi-Oh! Completely after freshman year. Not only did drama come back up for me, but I just wasn't liking the game anymore. Pendulum Monsters were the final straw for me, as I wasn't willing to accept them back then. The game was just getting too fast and complex for my taste. Not to repeat myself too much, once Duel Links dropped for mobile and the new movie came out, I finally came back to the game. By the way, that movie is also amazing. If you have not watched it, you are doing a huge disservice to yourself. My friends and I eventually got PlayStation 4s, and one of the main games we played was Legacy of the Duelist, so this was our go-to duel sim at the time. Not long into our senior year, one of my buddies convinced me that I should enter a local tournament at our dinky little comic shop in our small meth-filled town. I reluctantly agreed, but I had no legal decks or good cards to use. I was really struggling to build something for the event. I dug and dug through my card drawer until I found it. My favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. A card I had to make a deck around, no matter what. A card I still have a deck for, today. Dark Snake Syndrome. This card's art caught my eye because of how gruesome it looked. Then I read what it did. This card is a ticking time bomb. Each turn, both me and my opponent take 200 damage. But the catch? The damage doubles every turn. 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, 6400, 12,800. It does not stop. It does not show mercy to either player. I made a 60 card stall deck all about using this card and protecting it from destruction while also protecting my own life points. I used cards like Death's Wombat to halt the damage to myself and other burn cards to be certain my opponent would fall before I did. I actually came in top 3 with this deck. No one saw it coming. I still have this deck today, but of course it's much, much better now. It's still just as stupid too. I love this deck, and I love this card. I have several Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and for funsies, let's actually go through what I have here. This part will be unscripted, so bear with me if you can. Hey, this is the unscripted part of the video. I'm just going to kind of quickly go through some of the Yu-Gi-Oh decks I have. This is not all of them, this is just some of them. Just kind of go through each one, talk about some of the things that I like about them and such. I'll try to go in some kind of order or fashion here. The first one I want to look at is, this is the Dark Snake Syndrome deck. Current Dark Snake Syndrome. I talked about this deck some in the video during my first tournament I ever went to. This deck is much better than it was before. It is part stun now. It's down to 40 cards, and as you can see, it's got some extra deck in it, which it didn't have before. Again, none of these decks, I'm going to say right now, are competitive. These are all just for funs, with buddies and stuff. I've got some competitive cards, which you'll see in a minute, but I mean, it's nothing crazy. I did actually go out of my comfort zone, and I went to a local, and it was super fun. At first, I was going to play with my Blue Eyes deck, until somebody looked through my terrible Dark Snake deck and said, you know what? You should run this. This would be really funny. And then I did it. And I actually managed to win 2 games, which was pretty wild. I got a lot of advice from people. Some people heard some of the cards I was playing, like Magic Cylinder and stuff, and they were like, man, this guy's playing with like goat cards. This is crazy. So everybody just kept calling me the goat guy. So now this deck has a lot of goat stuff in it, and you'll see what that means in a second. We'll start with the extra deck. Going with the goat theme, I've got Blackluster Soldier here, 5-headed Link Dragon, and some generic Nightmare cards, and we got some tokens for Scapegoat. Now, again, I could definitely have more cards in here, but again, just for funsies, I don't really care. I don't need this deck to be crazy good. We'll quickly go through the deck. Again, we mentioned Death's Wombat. Here's the titular card. Dark Snake Syndrome. I explained in the video what this card does and why I love it so much. Okay, here we go. We got cards like Raigeki, Mirror Force, Curse Seal, Dark Hole, Gold Sarcophagus, Summon Limit, so it can stop my opponent from comboing, Scapegoat for my links, Level Limit, change those monsters to defense, Torrential Tribute, Sangan, Magician of Faith, Jiaojin. I actually saw somebody use Jiaojin in this tournament, and the moment I saw this card, I was like, why am I not using that? Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning, another Mirror Force Gravity Bind, Cyber Jar. If you notice, there's a lot of light and dark in here. The cat wants to join us. Hello, Ruka. Ruka, I'm recording. I'm busy, Ruka. I might have to throw you off the table. Witch of the Black Forest. Like, yeah, Mirrors the Magic Cylinder. Marshmallow, Swords of Revealing Light. Yeah. And of course, we got a newer card in here in Evenly Matched. But yeah, very focused on stun and removal, and the strategy is still the same. Either Dark Snake kills you, or it kills us both. Alright. Move on to the next deck I've got. Next up, I mentioned I used to use an Exodia deck that was super cheap and definitely banned. I've actually reworked that deck into a just as obnoxious Exodia deck. This one is the classic Royal Magical Library, just draw a bunch of cards. Yeah, you throw out Royal Magical Library, and for every 3 spells you activate, you draw a card. And of course, every spell in this deck lets me draw cards. And the goal is just to OTK with Exodia. This deck, yeah, it's super lame or whatever. I just wanted to build it because it was a super easy deck to build. It's very inexpensive. I just think this deck is funny. Um, like, every classic Yu-Gi-Oh fan is gonna want Exodia. That's just a given. It's Exodia. Exodia is gonna get new support soon. So, hey, maybe I'll make something more interesting. But yeah, just a quick one. Up next, I mentioned that one of my brothers uses Fire Kings. I thought the Fire Kings were super cool. I made a Fire King deck, and recently a Fire King structure deck actually came out. So I managed to grab 2 of it and combined it with my already existing Fire King deck to make this. It's got some extra deck in here now. Again, this is just from that structure deck. I only managed to get 2 of that structure deck, so this deck probably isn't as good as it could be. It's got some modern support in here, like Drone Lockbird. I got some cool gold rares in here, like some Judgment Harpies. I still use regular Garnix for the destruction loop. What you do is you destroy Garnix, and then have him come back from the graveyard. So you destroy him, play a different one. This one comes back from the grave, destroys him, and it loops. And every time this happens, it wipes the board. And there's other monsters that work with this, like the new Garnix. But yeah, love Fire Kings. They're very fun. I don't know if they're competitive or not now because of this new support, but they're definitely a lot better than they were before. I love these gold rares. A lot of people say gold rares look ugly. I disagree. I think gold rares. Oh god, I used to have the gold rare Monster Reborn in here. The cat's attacking the stool. Anyway, I used to have the gold rare Monster Reborn in here, and it looked great. And I have way more cards than this. These are just some of the decks that I have. I've got more decks, and I'm working on a few more as well. Alright. Next, the Blue Eyes deck that I mentioned. Was like the first, I guess, competitive deck, or, decent deck I tried to make. Start with the extra deck here. Got some Kaiba tokens. We got plenty of Blue Eyes synchros and some generic synchros. Alternative Ultimate, Twin Burst, Thunder In, Higher Tech, Galaxy Eyes, and Hope Harbinger. This is such a ridiculous fucking name. Look at this name. Number 38, Hope Harbinger, Dragon Titanic Galaxy. God, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay. And we'll look through the actual deck. Of course, we got Blue Eyes White Dragon. We got some tuner cards, Alternative, Imperm, Honest, Polys for the fusions, Abyss, Cosmo Brain. I'm missing Jet Dragon. I really need to get that. That's like the big card that I'm missing here. Again, not the most competitive deck in the world, I know, but hey, it's Blue Eyes. It's easy. It's fun. Simple. This is a deck that I think is well balanced for the I guess I consider myself casual good, in between casual. I remember when we would T set and then you'd pass turn, you'd set Man Eater Bug and a Magic Jammer in your game and you're done. And the modern competitive players, I'm in between those two. Of course, with Blue Eyes, you gotta have Dark Magician. This deck is still using proxies in it because Dark Magician is expensive to play. So we'll go through it. You'll see some of them here in a second. Got the Dark Magicians, Dark Paladin. Let's see, Dark Dragoon, Amulet. Got Ebon and some other Xyz here, like Big Eye. The main proxies that are in here are going to be Soul Servant and Magician Souls. Magician Souls is like a $50 card, which is ridiculous. So I just printed out one and threw it in here. And Soul Servant was also super expensive, but I think it's actually gone down in price now, thankfully, so I can definitely can get real copies of it. But yeah, Dark Magician, I do enjoy playing as well. He's very fun. Just like Blue Eyes, a lot of fusing going on, a lot of special summoning. Again, it's a classic. Gotta have your Kaiba and your Yugi. On the subject of Kaiba and Yugi, gotta have Red Eyes. This is Joey. Fun fact, these three decks, the Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, and this Red Eyes deck, these started out as like one of those like legendary collection boxes that had the anime decks in them, and those anime decks are terrible. I took those decks and turned them into these. And this also, I believe, still has a bunch of proxies in it. It's still not fully finished. Not because these are expensive. I just haven't gotten around to like buying the cards yet. You know, we got some Red Eyes Fusion cards, Flare Metal, Borolo Sword, Dark Arm Dragon, Dragoon. I need to get another copy of him. Big Eye. Yeah, it's still a lot of proxies in here. Yeah, here's some more proxies. Oh, I forgot I had this. This, like, I think this was the quarter century, or not quarter century. What is it called? Oh, man, I don't remember. It's real pretty. Red Eyes in here. This is an old Red Eyes. Old Summon Skull. Of course, I got that Dark Magician Dragoon. As you can expect, like, it's all going to be about this Red Eyes Fusion card right here. Like, pretty standard Red Eyes deck. Nothing too crazy. Another Gold Rare Solomon here. Need to do something about these proxies. Again, I know these cards in particular are not expensive. I'm just lazy. So, right. Set this to the side so that's Red Eyes. Next, Cyber Dragon. Get some Yu-Gi-Oh! GX in here. I am working on a hero deck, but it's not done yet. But I do have Cyber Dragon. Now, this deck is complete. I really, really like Cyber Dragon. It's very fun. I got a friend of mine. She also plays Cyber Dragon. Main difference between our decks is she likes to use Overload Fusion. I like to use Cyberload Fusion. I remember one day we were playing against each other, and we both managed to one-turn kill each other back-to-back. The Cyber Dragon's just like that. The card that we did that with was a Chimera Tech Over Dragon. Cyber Dragon is super fun to play because you got all these fusion monsters, and they're super easy to get out, with a little bit of Link in there. The problem with Cyber Dragon, you do go through your entire hand, pretty much, really fast. But, I mean, it's just really satisfying, like, getting these big, like, machine monsters out and fusing them. Like, it really makes you feel like, you're Zane from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And I liked Zane watching that show, and I love to feel like him. And in Japan, he was called Hell Kaiser. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I started playing Cyber Dragons in Duel Links, and that inspired me to make an actual Cyber Dragon deck. Moving along with Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, the next thing I've got here is my current favorite deck to play when my buddies are over. Every time we get together to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Even on Omega, like online, I'm using this. This is Crystal Beast. Crystal Beast were used by Jesse Anderson, and this deck, or this archetype, used to be god-awful. But recently, they got a structure deck, and it added a lot of good cards for them. And now, they're actually pretty fun. Again, I wouldn't say competitive, but fun. They revolve all around their new fusion monsters, Rainbow Over Dragon, and this guy, Ultimate Crystal Rainbow Dragon Overdrive. You try to get your Crystal Beast. You want to get 7 different Crystal Beasts on the field or in the graveyard. And then when you do, you can play Rainbow Dragon. And then Rainbow Dragon is like 4,000 attack. And then this guy has 4,000 attack, but he can also shuffle everything on the field back into the deck. This guy is an upgraded version of him, who also has 4,000 attack, but if you pull off his effect, he gets 11,000 attack. He can shuffle everything on the field back into the deck, And he can special summon all of your banished Crystal Beast monsters back to the field. It's wild, and it's super fun to do it. So the rest of these are just tokens, but Crystal Beasts are awesome. This is probably the most combo-y deck I have, because you're going to be using lots of Crystal Bond and Crystal Miracle, Sapphire Pegasus. Like, you're constantly, like, getting all these Crystal Beasts out, putting them on the field. If I had some Link monsters, you'd link them off and, like, continue that way. One of the few decks that I have that uses a Pendulum card, but only for its effect. I don't Pendulum summon. But yeah, like, you're just constantly, like, summoning monsters, playing spells, moving things to your back row, getting things out of the deck. This deck is just super fun. I really enjoy Crystal Beast. Again, probably my current favorite deck to play. But yeah, those are just a few. I've got more. Like, I got out, like, an Obelisk and Slifer deck here, but I don't really have much to say about them. They're also still not finished yet. The God cards, man... man, they suck, but I really want to make them work. But maybe one day. Slifer uses like the face cards, you know, like Jack's Knight, Queen's Knight, King's Knight. Obelisk is using like the slimes and like some raw cards, because Obelisk doesn't really have an archetype that works with them. But yeah, those are a few of the Yu-Gi-Oh decks I have. To those who want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh, again, just like last time in the other video, I mentioned some good resources. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links is how I got back into the game. It's how I'd recommend new players get in. I'd also recommend Master Duel if you are looking to get into the competitive scene. I'd recommend YGO Omega if you want to just play for free and you don't want to have to worry about like grinding for cards. And of course, there's all the old Game Boy and DS games and the PSP games. Pretty much all video games let you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Against AI opponents during the era that game came out. I'm currently playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force, but of course there's tons of options out there. Anyway, I want to apologize for how long it took for this video to get finished. Really don't have any excuse for it. I got lazy, and also the holidays, of course, took up a lot of time. But I'm back now. I'm going to try to start working on the Nintendo Switch video, and then after that is the Steam Deck video. And I'm also going to get back to Let's Play. Now, when I get back to Resident Evil and Banjo, they will not be live streams. I'm changing how I'm doing it. I don't really have the time to set aside an hour and a half to 2 hours to live stream, but I can set aside like 45 minutes to an hour just playing the game and recording it casually. And I can just chop that up and then make, you know, like standard length LP videos. So I'm going to do that from now on. But yeah, thank you for sticking around for this like unedited, unscripted part of the video, and for, of course, sticking around to the scripted video. It's been fun talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! I think I did a better job this time talking about personal stuff. Hi, Ruka. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next time with... again, hopefully the Switch video and some more Let's Play stuff.
Do you wander through this life like a child without a care? Do you fear the things you love? Do you seek the things you fear? When the world comes crashing down,